This video is brought to you by Incogni. Stick around at the end to learn more. Well, I don't know how precisely one gets south of midnight. That's like saying 10 miles away. But it is a game set in the American Deep South, which is presumably south of most things, so fine, you win this round, Compulsion Games, developer of We Happy Few. Oh, that's strange, I can't seem to find anything in the marketing copy of South of Midnight referencing that it's from the developer of We Happy Few. Why is that, developer of We Happy Few, Compulsion Games? Don't you want people to remember that you developed We Happy Few, developer of We Happy Few, Compulsion Games? Or do you not want people to harp on the fact that you're no more from the American Deep South than you were from England? Compulsion are still as Canadian as they were last time, which is presumably why the contemporary Deep South they depict here is all down-home folksy magical realism and has a surprising absence of Walmarts. But let's be fair, We Happy Few had a pretty good aesthetic and story if you could get past the gameplay being 4 pints of tosh in a 3-pint tosh receptacle, and just to skip to the end for a moment, it's the aesthetic and story that recommends South of Midnight. The gameplay's complete fucking dishwater, but hey, dishwater fills a space, specifically a space the precise dimensions of a kitchen sink, but I'm getting too far ahead. South of Midnight follows Hazel Flood, a young track star in a dying small town who goes on a quest to rescue her mother after her house is washed away in a storm and enters a world of talking animals and magical realism. Hazel Flood, Dorothy Gale, house removed by namesake weather phenomenon. This is rather overt Wizard of Oz parallelism, isn't it? Except ultimately Hazel is not so much brought to a fantasy magical realist world as made aware of the fact that she's already in one, because she's secretly a destined hero called a Weaver who uses mystical powers to unpick the bad vibes created from deep-set pain and trauma, which in practical terms means smacking the shit out of metaphorical monsters in an assuredly very analogous sort of way. Through this method, Hazel explores the hidden darkness at the heart of the world in which she lives, in a story that at its core is about emotional pain and how we deal with it. Pretty universal themes. Yes, I too push people away because I'm afraid of turning into a giant monster owl. And when I say darkness at the heart of the world, I mean really fucking dark. The parallels with Wizard of Oz kind of fall away. The witch being crushed by a falling house is replaced by poverty-stricken children being crushed by generational trauma. The dead baby is the absolute least of it, but you'd be surprised how much more wholesome a horrifying story of child abuse and murder can become when it's narrated with a folksy southern drawl. Makes me wonder how far you could take that. Well, I guess no one ever done told that Jeffrey Dahmer fella that drain cleaning chemicals ain't got no business inside a human skull. I apologise for that, and for everything, generally. So as I say, South of Midnight is very strong on aesthetic. The environment's choked with generic black and red evil corrupting matter that clears out to be replaced with blooming flowers every time Hazel smacks the shit out of enough things. Might be a little bit on the nose. Not to mention a bit tonally off, since the answer to the trauma demons created by small children getting the shit smacked out of them with birch twigs is apparently to smack the shit out of them some more, but benevolently this time. Which might as well bring us to the gameplay in all its dish-sterilising functionality. The format is pure ghost train ride. Hazel advances through a linear sequence of areas, completing platforming, climbing into environmental puzzle sequences, looking for entanglements of bad vibes to purge, and sometimes after we do that, Uncle Remus comes back on and tells us another chapter in the story of how old Mama Cyrus done tortured her sister to death with electrified nipple clamps or whatever appalling trauma lies at the heart of the current area and upcoming boss fight. Fine, but at some point the delivery man must have shown up at the door saying, hey, I've brought you the minimum amount of combat required to call yourself an action-adventure game, where do you want it? Well, there's those boss fights with the trauma monsters. Ooh, I don't know, love, the boss fights can't be the only combat in the game, unless you fall under category F subsection 9 of the Shadow of the Colossus clause. Why don't you sprinkle a bunch of token arena fights with the boss's mooks across the levels? Mooks? Why the fuck would old Mama Cyrus have mooks? She's a disarmingly pleasant, homely old dear who happens to have murdered a close relative. She didn't run a fucking meth empire. Look, lady, I'm not story department, I'm just telling you this combat's gotta go somewhere or you can take it up with the Union. And so, every time we untrauma an area, a bunch of painfully generic spiky black badness demons come out of the woodwork like the token, hitherto unestablished sex partner at the end of the first act of a Cinemax erotic thriller, and we're obliged to go through the routine of whacking them with sticks and dodging when they attack so that we might live to whack them with sticks another day. And it's all terribly uninspired. You could replace it all with a frantic masturbation minigame and say Hazel suffers from unmedicated nymphomania and very little would change, except probably the age rating. Shame really, because the boss fights are pretty good. In fact, I might say that South of Midnight features the best integration of gameplay and music that I've seen in quite a while. I'd be fighting the hideous electrified nipple monster version of Old Mama Cyrus's sister, and there'll be a toe-tapping rhythm and blues number playing, with lyrics about how Old Mama Cyrus done overdid the mammary voltage. Again, bit on the nose perhaps, but I swear what I'm doing in organic gameplay syncs up with the music more often than not. And yes, it is a ghost train ride, and as such the pacing is always firmly under the game's control, like a turkey's gullet in the fist of an unsympathetic farmhand. But still, if you told me after I played Sonic Unleashed that one day I'd play a game that accompanied standard combat with up-tempo jazz music and I'd find it not completely irritating, I'd have said, boy, coming back from the future to tell me that suggests a severe deficiency in big picture thinking. But if we're inching our way towards conclusion here, I'd say I recommend South of Midnight for its faults because it's got decent writing, a strong aesthetic, and gameplay gameplay that at worst fills the gaps. It's still kind of a shame that all a game needs to do these days to stand out is have a distinct personality and actually be about something, even if the intended tone wavers about like a set of windscreen wipers. So yeah, getting better, Compulsion Games. Solid writing, great music, dishwater gameplay, but hey, dishwater's a nice thing to have around if you need to do some washing up. I mean, in contrast, We Happy Few's gameplay was a kitchen sink full of ocelots sick. This video is brought to you by Incogni. What is Incogni, Yahtzee? I don't know anything about it, or indeed what time it is, or where I am, or what you want from me. Well, that's fitting, because Incogni is all about making the spammers and scammers of the internet not know anything about you, either. Sign up at incogni.com/secondwind using code secondwind to get 60% off. And from the simple operations of Incogni's intuitive dashboard, you too can be assured that you can browse the internet without risk of spam email or phishing scams, as well as the fact that nobody knows you're here or will ever hear you no matter how loudly you scream. And now Incogni has unlimited and family unlimited plans for that extra layer of security you've clearly been lacking up to now. Remember, go to incogni.com/secondwind and use code secondwind for 60% off. And remember to put the lotion on the skin, or else you'll get the hose again.